Making our power grid more efficient and more reliant on renewable energy sources is one of the biggest lifts to reduce climate change. All those electric cars have to get their electricity from somewhere. Batteries are emerging as a key solution. Store up clean power, use it when it's needed most. But a few battery fires have given battery storage a reputation, and it's coloring plans to build them in the Adirondacks. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from the Devlin Inn & Suites, Lake Placid, welcoming families, athletes, and groups to the Olympic Village, offering Adirondack mountain views and dog-friendly accommodations. TheDevlinNY.com.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Wednesday, March 18th. First up, it's Election Day in Saranac Lake. Voters will cast their ballots for mayor and 2 seats on the Village Board of Trustees. Mayor Jimmy Williams is running for re-election on the Republican Party line. He's aligned himself with Republican trustee candidates Katie Stiles and Josh King, who's running as a write-in candidate for trustee. Current village trustee Kelly Brunette is challenging Jimmy Williams for mayor. Brunette is running alongside fellow Democrats Jeremy Evans and David Trudeau, who are vying for the 2 open trustee seats. One key issue in the mayoral race between Jimmy Williams and Kelly Brunette is where they stand on a $30 million emergency services building for the village. Williams supports the plan, while Brunette wants to put it to a public vote. Polls are open at the Harrietstown Town Hall this evening until 9 p.m. Energy demand is on the rise in New York. Companies are building big data centers that use up massive amounts of power. Plus, New Yorkers are relying more on electricity to heat their homes and power their cars, which environmentalists say is an important step in fighting climate change. But all that energy usage is putting a strain on the state's electric grid. One way to alleviate that strain is by building places to store energy so it can be used during peak demand. And the way to do that is with batteries. But as Emily Russell reports, there's growing pushback against battery storage sites in the Adirondacks.
Every month, the town of Northampton meets at its municipal center. Usually just 1 or 2 people show up. The population of the small town and the southern Adirondacks is under 3,000. But last month, the town board meeting looked a lot different.
Let's do a motion. Let's do it. Make our government work.
This is a video of the meeting shared online. Hundreds of people were there, including Valerie Martin.
How the heck did this project get this far without any public awareness or any opposition from the town?
The project Martin's referring to is a battery storage site. It would have 6 large structures that kind of look like shipping containers. They would house lithium-ion batteries that can store 10 megawatts of power. That meeting lasted about 4 hours. People like Martin shared their fears and frustrations.
What happens here is going to set precedents for the rest of the Adirondack Park. That's why it's so important to stop this and put a moratorium in.
The key concern that Martin and others expressed were about the risk of fire and environmental contamination. A few battery storage sites have caught fire in recent years, including at a solar farm in Jefferson County 3 years ago and one in Orange County just a few months ago. But data from around the world shows that fires are increasingly rare. According to the Electric Power Research Institute, which is an independent nonprofit, the deployment of battery sites has gone up about 20-fold, while the rate of failure is down by 98%.
So deployment skyrocketed, and then issues plummeted.
That's Sean Fresco. He's a senior project developer for Carson Power, the company behind the project in Northampton. He says lithium-ion batteries meet strict fire certifications. Plus, they're field tested.
These certifications are not just desk models. They actually put these things on fire and they stress them. Like, how does this get avoided? How do we mitigate these problems?
The 10-megawatt facility in Northampton would be part of the growing network of sites across New York State, which aims to have 6,000 megawatts of battery storage by 2030. Here's why that matters. As of now, when demand for energy exceeds supply, the grid draws from what are known as peaker plants. Those plants burn fossil fuel that contribute to climate change, and they're more expensive to pull from. Fresco says battery sites will reduce New York's reliance on those plants.
During those periods that are low demand, the battery will charge. And then when you see those spikes, it discharges. So it provides that, that reserve of power, essentially.
The state's energy authority, known as NYSERDA, declined to be interviewed for this story. But in a statement, it said that bulk energy storage will, quote, lower costs, optimize the generation and transmission of power, and ensure the reliability of the state's electricity system. But despite the rising cost of power and the push towards renewables, folks in Northampton remain hyper-focused on one thing, the risk of fire. Again, that's despite data showing it's a diminishing risk. At last month's board meeting, the crowd urged Northampton town leaders to pass a 1-year moratorium on battery storage sites.
That was the worst meeting I ever had to try and run.
Northampton Town Supervisor Jim Groff.
Which I didn't do a very good job of it because it was kind of uncontrollable, but I am definitely done after this term.
Groff has been in local government for about 50 years. He's frustrated that the public just recently got involved in this debate. The project has been more than 6 months in the making. It was reviewed by the town planning board back in October, and it didn't get any attention. Then there was a public hearing in November, and again, it didn't garner much pushback. It wasn't until the APA's public comment period in November and its permit approval in January that the project really blew up. Groff is actually against it. He calls New York's green energy goals a, quote, scam. But he also says the local opposition is a bit much.
I think it's blown out of proportion a little bit. But again, it's just the state wants these things. They're pushing this agenda for the green, and they don't care about the park.
But some environmentalists say these kinds of energy projects are exactly what the park and the state needs to reduce electric rates and limit the impacts of climate change. Jill Hank is the Climate and Energy Program Director at the Adirondack North Country Association. She says the real and immediate risk of a warming climate outweighs the small and hypothetical risk of a fire at a battery site.
I think a lot about risk because I work in climate change. And I think that there are increased risks associated with climate change like wildfires and air quality related to the Canadian wildfires.
Those are risks that folks in the Adirondacks are already dealing with, in large part because society still relies mainly on fossil fuels. Hank says the quickest, cleanest energy source we can move towards is solar, but the sun doesn't shine all the time, so New York needs places to store that energy.
At the end of the day, if we're going to increase the amount of power on the grid, and we're going to do it with renewables, we have to also install battery storage.
This debate about batteries is just beginning in another small Adirondack town. Carson Power is proposing a 20-megawatt facility in St. Armand, which includes parts of Saranac Lake. Davina Thurston is St. Armand's town supervisor. She says the town would get a small boost in property taxes from the site and could rely on energy from the batteries during local power outages. Plus, Thurston says rising electric rates are impossible to ignore.
As energy prices skyrocket across New York State, everybody kind of realizes we have got to do something. We have to do something to alleviate this, and maybe this is how.
St. Armand held an informational session about the project last month. Someone from Carson Power was there to answer questions. About 20 people showed up, some of whom had concerns about the risk of fire and about noise pollution. The town is still early on in the process, but Thurston says her support of it will just depend on how locals feel about it.
If the residents of St. Armand overwhelmingly want this, then I'll be okay with it. If the residents overwhelmingly don't want this, then I would vote no.
Both St. Armand and Northampton are hosting public hearings on their respective projects on Thursday. Both towns are set to vote on a 1-year moratorium against battery sites. Thurston said that will give St. Armand time to learn more about the technology before voting on it. Emily Russell, North Country Public Radio in St. Armand.
NCPR's climate change and health reporting is made possible through generous support by Margot and John Ernst. We have more news all the time on our website, ncpr.org. Music today by Mark Corey of Watertown and Evan Veenstra of Gananoque, Ontario. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.